All right, let's get started though. So we can discuss that if you have any query. So I can just go over the paper later. But for now, we're gonna go into human and social biology. Can you repeat?
I said human and social biology.
Right. So now I'm gonna share screen share.
Sir, can you send me the link?
No problem. Here you go. Copy URL.
Sir?
Mm-hmm.
So can you send me the link, sir?
Yeah, I'm sending it. There we go. Okay, so we left off last class, if you can remember. Let me show you where we left off. November 14th, we discussed...
We got digestive system in class today. In class last week. Yes, sir.
Digestive system, malnutrition, body mass index, etc. Right?
Yes, sir.
Right? So now today, though, I want to know, where did your teacher, for example, leave off? So I can continue from there.
Sir, we left off with chemical digestion.
Can you repeat?
Sir, we left off from chemical digestion.
Chemical digestion, okay. So you didn't touch the teeth yet?
Sir, we touched the teeth already, sir.
All right, good. So let's go to chemical digestion. Give me a moment. I'm going to write that for you. Chemical digestion. What can you recall about chemical digestion?
Like chemical, sir?
Yeah. What do you remember about chemical digestion? Yep, chemical digestion.
Chemical digestion, they enrich the species of food and broken down into smaller pieces.
Okay.
The chemical digestion begins in the mouth where food is chewed by the teeth.
Mm-hmm.
And it continues in the stomach where manufacturers of the stomach walls serve the food.
Okay, good.
Sorry about that. That's mechanical digestion. I'm sorry.
Right, not a problem. As long as you're participating, there's no issue. But the thing about it though, do you know what a peristalsis is? Peristalsis. So there's some keywords, right for me. There are some keywords.
Peristalsis is a series of wave-like muscle contractions that moves food to different processing stations in the digestive tract.
Excellent. Do you know what this is? Pyloric sphincter.
Excuse me, sir. The link is taking a little while to load, sir.
Not to worry. So in the meanwhile, while it's loading up, let's look at the screen share. All right. So there are some keywords that we must understand about chemical digestion. Peristalsis, which you just said. Pyloric sphincter. Bolus. And esophagus. Do you know these definitions?
Yes, sir. Mr. White instructed to define those words on Tuesday, sir.
Did you do that, or do you want to go through today?
Sir, we did do that, sir.
All right, good.
Mr. White instructed us to do it.
Let's continue then. What is a gastric juice? So after this, you're to be taught gastric juice. Gastric juice. Have you ever heard of this?
Yes, sir. I've heard of it, sir.
Did you go through it?
Yes, sir. We went through it on Thursday, sir. When we were talking about chemical digestion.
All right. Now the next thing.
I said, can I say something, sir?
Uh-huh.
I said, can I say something, sir? It's like chemical digestion, another word for mechanical digestion.
Mechanical?
Yes, sir.
Well, I wouldn't put the term mechanical, because mechanical is an abrasive term, which means metal parts moving, but it does have parts moving in your body. It's just that mechanical gives you the idea that it's like machines, but it is moving parts in your body. All right, but I wouldn't like for you to use that term. I'd like for you to just use chemical digestion. All right, but did you go through
physical digestion, right, sir?
Repeat.
I thought that mechanical and physical does not mean the same thing in digestion, right, sir?
All right. In regards to the mechanical and physical digestion aspect, they're alluding to the same thing. So it's most of the time they don't ask you for the different terms. They would rather just you tell me what it is rather than you giving it a different term name. Does that make sense? Because if you say, for example, you call it physical digestion now, but then you call it mechanical digestion the next time, it can get it can lose its meaning. So sometimes, for example, you don't understand what you're saying. So we just call it by what it actually is, and just say it's digestion, right? Chemical digestion, right? But Khalil, did you go through duodenum?
Yes, sir.
All right, so we're just going through quickly. If at any point you've never heard of it, bile. Did you go through bile?
Bile, sir. Yes, sir. Went 3 times, sir. Yes, sir.
Pancreatic. So these are all the topics you should go through. Pancreatic juice.
Yes, sir. I have a question, sir. So, like, when you, I just like pancreatic juice are very important. Why is it very important?
All right, let's go through that then. Okay. So that's something. Pancreatic juice. Where does that organ come from? Where does the word pancreatic come from?
The pancreas.
Excellent. So this is a juice, and we use juice without about.
That's a sweet drink.
Yeah, but it's not really a drink. That's how I put.
Just put water, fruits, and sugar in it, and bam, you get it.
But look at it though, Khalil, look at it. The reason I put juice in quotation is because it's not actually juice that you drink. It's a term for liquid, right? So the juice, this is a juice, right? That has a chemical that is important for digestion, right? So it is alkaline. Do you know what alkaline is in terms of solutions? All right, excellent. So alkaline, what is alkaline again?
I don't know, sir.
Okay, so let me define it. Alkaline is a solution that is basic. And basic basically means it is the opposite of an acidic solution. So you remember, like in movies where you see acid gets eaten down everything that it touches? You remember those scenes, Khalil?
No, sir.
All right. Acid. What comes to mind when you think of acid? Like a vat of acid in those movies where the bad guy says, I'm going to drop in a vat of acid. Why does he threaten you with acid? Because it eats away anything, right?
It feels just like don't you see those shows, sir, when they're going near acid, sir, then start.
Exactly.
They start to melt away, sir.
Exactly. So that's why we say
sir, it's fictional.
No, it's not fictional. It's real. Acid is real, right? The action of acid eating away stuff is real, right? So in the case of your stomach, Khalil, your body acts with acid as well. So the juice in the pancreas is called alkaline, which is the opposite, really, of acid. Right? We say basic, put in bracket, which is the opposite of an acid. Right? The chemical that is found right? So let me write back the solution is good morning. Basic. The solution is basic, right? And has a chemical called sodium bicarbonate. Have you heard of this one before?
Yeah.
The crazy thing about this, you use it every day. Or, well, some parents use it every day. I'm going to ask you to research what that is, right? I'm telling you, you use it in your household. Most times you don't even know. So that's the first activity. Activity. Find out what is sodium bicarbonate and find a diagram to explain. Okay, So continuing now. So we say the pancreatic juice, Khalil, has a chemical called sodium bicarbonate. And you're going to look what sodium bicarbonate means, right? The process, go at the process now. Okay, is that it passes down a duct, right, from the pancreas to the duodenum. So you told me earlier that you know what duodenum mean, because I was gonna go through and you said you knew what it mean already. So remind me now, what is the duodenum?
Sir, the duodenum is very... Sir, the duodenum.
Right.
Isn't that a funny word? The duodenum.
Mm-hmm. What does it mean?
Duodenum. So I'm looking for it, sir.
All right, let me give you a moment. All right, George. Where are you in terms of HSB during the week?
Digestion.
Digestion. Okay, so you're at the same space as Khalil. Good.
So, about it.
Right. So what is duodenum?
So the duodenum is the first part of the small intestine.
The duodenum is of the small intestines. So I'm gonna get a diagram of the small intestine, so George can see where the duodenum is.
Right? Yeah, because it's just like how much words are there in the English language?
There are too many words to count.
But how many are there in the English language? A billion?
It wouldn't be that much. All right, so here we go. Here's a picture of the small intestine. All right, copy this image. All right, George, look at this diagram for me. Here we go. So, small letter. Excellent. There we go. So we're saying now that the pancreatic juice, right, allows a chemical called sodium bicarbonate to pass down a duct or pass down substances from the pancreas to the duodenum. So it's, in other words, it's like a process. Pancreatic juice allows a process to happen. Right? So let's look what the pancreatic juice would be. So here's the duodenum, right? And the process will be passing it down to the duodenum. Understand? Right? So that's the pancreatic juice at play. In other words, it carries whatever it's in that solution to the duodenum to process. All right. Let's continue. Let's cover that up. Good? Okay, good.
I just like you like biology, sir.
Of course I do. Of course I do. All right?
I have a question. So it's like why is it called human and social biology, sir? What an upper senior I get it's called biology.
It's a good question. The reason why we call it human and social biology is because we learn more about the human aspect to biology. If that makes sense. Because in biology, Khalil, they learn about different parts of the plant and so forth. But when we are in human and social biology, we take that biology aspect and directly look at how it affects us as humans only. All right? So we're going to continue now from the pancreatic juice to see how it applies to us as humans and talk about the parts of the enzymes. All right? So there's something called enzymes that it has, right? Do you know what amylase? We talked about it earlier in earlier classes. Amylase. All right?
Yes, I know what it is, sir.
So while you're doing that, we have amylase, we have lipids, and proteases. All right, these are very big words. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna get some things to help you see what exactly it looks like.
I said about it out. An amylase is an enzyme found chiefly in saliva and pancreatic process by which the soluble food molecules produced in digestion move into the body fluids and body cells.
Right. So look at this for me. Let me show you the diagram.
Psychology is a very big word, sir.
Can you repeat?
So psychology, those are very big words, sir.
Well, in terms of you everyday using it, do you use it in your normal conversations?
No, sir.
Right. So it's not a case where you practice these words. So that's just it's very big words in terms of vocabulary expansion. But let's look at an example of how amylase enzyme could be used. So we're saying amylase is in the mouth, as I said earlier, when you're eating the food, like your teeth and so forth, right? It begins to work with food and it breaks it down into what? Sugar. You remember that? Right? Let's look at lipids now. Let's quickly get these two diagrams. Here we go. Lipids. All right. So, have you heard of the word lipids before?
Lipids. Yes, I've heard of it.
All right.
Yes, sir.
Tell me.
They're called fats and oils.
Let me put who's gonna answer this question? Let me put your name. Is it George or Khalil? What is lipids? Martin, George. All right, George, you have the floor. What can you recall about lipids?
Lipids.
Mm-hmm.
So that lipids are fats, oils, and waxes in the body.
Right. Okay, good. All right. No, in regards to the digestion aspect, we take lipids and we introduce something called lipase. All right. So lipase now is essentially, right, an enzyme. So this is an enzyme that is used in the digestion process. Let me get a diagram to show you. Lipase. Here we go. Okay, good. All right, look at this one. So here we go. So you said lipids were fats. Now look at exactly what lipase is. So lipase is a fat splitting enzyme found in the blood, pancreatic secretions, gastric juices, etc. It hydrolyzes, so it introduces water into these fats and make them turn into fatty acids and glycerol molecules. So why do we use lipids? Here we go. So the reason why is because it breaks down and helps the body to absorb lipids. Why do we use lipase? It helps the body to absorb lipids, as George said, which is fat. Understand? So that's where the word comes from. Lipase, lipids. And other example of it is that the two other enzymes I said before, amylase, right, which is used to break down starch. We're going to look at what protease is now and how it helps to get into these other two enzymes and do the digestion prospect. All right? Let's look at protease now. Hey, George, I see you typing. Good job. All right, let's look at protease now. All right, we'll go for a diagram. Protease.
First time I've ever heard it.
First you're hearing it? All right. Not to worry. All right. Let me just give an example of how it would look. I don't see a proper example though. All right, not to worry. I'll just use this picture for now. But that's highly complicated. All right. For this one, I guess it's not a proper diagram, but let me just tell you what it is. Really, right? This enzyme, right, does an emulsifying effect. About emulsifying effect. That's the word of the day, emulsifying or emulsify. Emulsifying effect to fats into two products. Right? So here are the two products. We have something called glycerol and fatty acid. Right? Okay. So what's going to happen here now is, because this is a little bit advanced, here's what I want you to understand. Let's go over them. So we're going to just quickly go into amylase, protease, and then lipase. Right? Let's go into the steps again. So we said amylase was an enzyme that broke down starch into smaller sugar. Correct? We said lipase broke down fat. Correct? And then now we're saying that protease, the enzyme, breaks down.
Put something.
Oh, thank you. Right? Protease now breaks down and breaks down fat and form it into glycerol and fatty acid. So this is what the body uses now, right? Glycerol and fatty acid. And that's going to be exercise. Hashtag activity. Find examples of glycerol and why, and explain why fatty acid is formed and used in the body. All right, and again, if you want to look for your activities, you're just gonna go to the top right.
Filter activity.
There you go. So you're gonna see the first activity, which is find out what sodium bicarbonate. Exactly. Good job. So I see one activity is done by George already. I can tell this is George. So George, when you finish your activity, you need to write your name. So you're gonna type this bracket right here twice, right? And then type your name, George, and you're gonna see your name come up, George, right? So now I'll see that, hey, George is doing it. So when I search for the activities done by George, I can just look for George. There we go. I find out you did this one and the other ones as well. All right, so write your name beside your work so I can look for you. All right, good?
Okay, do that right now.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's go to another one now. So we're talking about the enzymes. So now we're going to move on into the intestinal glands. So let's go in here. All right, we're going to know the intestinal glands. All right. Where does the word intestinal come from? That's the first question. Where does the word intestinal come from? In other words, which other word is in the word intestinal?
Gland.
No. You can get another word out of this intestinal word. Intestines. Right. So, in other words, it has something to do with the intestines and an operation being done. So we can say, therefore.
So what does intestinal mean?
All right, let's get into it. So the intestinal is a root, comes from the root word intestines. Right? So it doesn't have to be a case where you know exactly what it is. You can just derive to say, well, it is a gland that is found in the intestines. That makes sense? So we can say, just by knowing what intestinal gland is coming from, we can say this is a gland found in the intestines. Right? So this is what we call etymology. Etymology, right? I want you guys to practice this in exams. It's very important. Right? Let me write it for you. And I say etymology is the study of words. Right? So when you're in exams and you don't know exactly a term is, you can break it down into smaller words and see where it's coming from. So we can say intestinal is coming from intestine. So that means it has something to do with intestines. Does that make sense? So practice this, right? So if you're studying, you don't know a term, before you even look it up on Google, try to critically think about what it's really saying. Right, so here's what intestinal glands is, right? This is found in the walls of the small intestines, right, where it secretes juices. So everything here is secreting chemicals to aid digestion, called intestinal juice. And we'll put juice in quotation because it's not the actual juice you drink. All right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we say now there. So in the previous classes, George, I'm pretty sure you can remember this. What was the sugar we said that was formed from the amylase enzyme? There was a sugar, we called it a name specifically. Let's go back. What was the name of the sugar formed from the amylase enzyme? That's George's question. Because I know he knows this. George.
Sorry. I forgot the correct name, sir.
All right.
I know that it's I forgot the correct name, sir.
All right. Not to worry, not to worry. So it's maltase. Maltase. All right. So wait, maltose, my bad. Maltose. All right. It's a sugar that was formed from amylase, but now an interesting thing happened. The intestinal juice now is going to turn this maltose into another compound for the body to use, right? Let's see it now. So this sugar is turned into glucose. You ever been at a track and meet game and the coach gave you glucose to eat?
Yes.
Right. That glucose is instant energy. Your body just takes it in and it has energy instantly, right? Because your body is essentially the currency that your body uses to really do action is glucose. So if you give your body glucose, it will in turn create energy. That's why whenever you're tired now, they tell you to eat some glucose. That's the currency your body runs on.
Whenever you're playing football or basketball, anything.
Right.
But besides from that, you can't eat it every day.
Exactly, you can't. Because here's what happens. You begin to have overload. Nothing in too much quantity is good for you, right? Even water, the most essential thing. If you drink too much water, you can actually hurt yourself, right? So nothing in large quantities is ever good for you, right? So we say now this sugar is turned into glucose. And here's how why it turns it into glucose. So the reason why this gland turns the sugar into a smaller compound sugar called glucose
I'm gonna write this off.
All right, yeah, you should write it off. Called glucose.
So during my POB time, I can get to rest because
yeah,
classes with us.
Right. So before I even tell you, you should have been taught something called amino acids.
Yes, sir.
Amino acids. All right, and you should know amino acids is very important, right? So in other words, your body will do whatever process is needed to get amino acids. Right?
By breaking your food like a
Yeah.
lot.
So you realize that we first had our food, the amylase broke it down into a large sugar. Then we realized the intestinal glands break that down into a smaller sugar called glucose. And then now we're gonna break that glucose down into a smaller thing. So the body is really just a metaphorical building. It's just constantly broken down, right?
Sir, can you go? Excuse me, sir.
Mm-hmm.
After say, can you go to that image, sir, about Lipase, sir?
Oh, let's go here.
You could have sent the link to the.
Oh, the link to the website. Here you go.
But sir, it's not being able to scroll down, sir.
Oh, all right. So I'll have to scroll for you. Not a problem.
I can scroll for myself.
Yeah, I think he has iOS or something. Khalil, because he isn't able to scroll like you are. Right? So lipase, as I said, Khalil, is really breaking down fat. Right? So you can study this diagram now after to really get the main idea. So here's where exactly the pancreas is, and we say that it is a pancreatic juice, right, which is the enzyme found in the juice. All right. So now in the intestinal glands, we say that now maltose broken down and form glucose, right? But here's how that glucose now turns into amino acids, which is what the body uses, right? So after it's broken down the glucose, it is then converted to something called peptides. So I'm going to give you a little diagram to show you this, because I think George remembers when I draw a diagram in IT class like a couple of weeks ago, right? I know that showed you the steps. I'm going to draw this again here, just to show you. So I'm going to say peptides that is then converted now into amino acids. So let me draw the diagram for Khalil to understand. Let me put diagram. All right, so the first thing we're going to say, guys, is that we started on...
When you were meaning by diagram, I thought that you were meaning by drawing, like the thing that you're drawing in math.
Oh, no. I mean the diagram when we're doing binary numbers.
Oh.
All right, so here we go. So we're going to say the first thing is that we had maltose. All right, here we go. Maltose is right here. And then we're going to connect it to say that it turns into, my bad, glucose. All right. It's been a while since I operated this, my bad. All right, there we go. So maltose to glucose.
Sir?
Yeah?
Sir, the meeting's going to take in 5 minutes and 10 seconds.
All right, not a problem. So, but quickly write this off. We're going to say maltose to glucose. Glucose to what? What was glucose turned into?
Oh, sorry, sir.
Yeah, we said glucose was turned into peptides. And then we said peptides was then finally turned into amino acid. Right? Amino acid. Okay, so I want you to get this diagram off or just take a picture of it. But it's not finished yet because you realize I have an empty bracket here. Here's just going to go there. We're going to say that the first thing we had was the starch. The starch, right? Let's put there we go. Maltose to glucose, right? And then starch, excellent, to maltose. Okay. But I'm going to ask some questions now. What happens to the starch in order for you to get maltose? We said that our enzyme was introduced.
So you're lagging, sir.
I'm lagging?
Yeah.
All right.
And I also hear my echo.
Let me try this again.
Echo.
All right, look at this diagram for me. So now we're going to go into the steps before the timer is over. What was the enzyme that we said breaks down starch into maltose? Anybody remembers?
Repeat, sir, you were lagging very badly.
All right. What was the enzyme? What
So let me
was?
share my screen for you.
Yeah, share the screen for me. Thank you.
And you should see if you give someone else the whole step.
Oh,
If it
my bad.
makes you stop lagging.
There you go.
Like, can you make me the host, sir?
All right.
Yeah, you can get Khalil.
Yeah, there you go.
We
Okay.
can do it.
All right, there you go. So look at this one now, guys. What was the enzyme we said that breaks down starch and forms maltose?
Peter?
What was the enzyme that we said breaks down starch and forms maltose?
Sir, isn't it our saliva, the chemical in our saliva?
Right, exactly. Good job. But now tell me what's in our saliva again, based on what we said earlier. What enzyme is in our saliva? Starts with A.
Amino acids or something like that.
Let's go back. It's either amylase, lipase, or protease.
Amylase.
Excellent. All right. So amylase breaks down, right, that starch into maltose. Now tell me, what happened to the maltose? Wait, there's an extra step here. So before maltose, it's actually maltase. I mean, after maltose, it's actually maltase. All right, so we're going to put that maltose gets broken down into, there we go. So here's a diagram. In 9 minutes? All right, thank you. So now we say maltose, guys, actually needs to be broken down further into something called maltase, and that's get turned into now glucose, right? And then on the next part of it, right, is that glucose now turns into peptides, and then that's amino acids. That's all right enough for me? All right, sorry if it looks a little bit unorganized. I'm still getting back into drawing diagrams. All right, it's been a while. Okay, good, there you go. So now we say starch is broken down by amylase to maltose. Maltose is broken down into maltase, which forms glucose. And then now peptides, right, is formed from glucose, which then forms the goal amino acids. So take that off for me. All right, you have the diagram after class. But let's move on now. So that was intestinal glands.
Okay, can I lock the meeting, sir?
No, don't lock the meeting, because Mr. Blackhead will be joining us in a few moments after our class. Remember, in 20 minutes. So now we're going to talk about absorption, because that was starch digestion, right? This was, in other words, starch digestion. But we're going to look at something called absorption in the ileum, right? For something to be absorbed like a sponge, what takes place? Something has to be.
They are present.
Right. Two things have to be present firstly, and one thing gets enclosed, in other words, into the larger substance. So when we say absorption in the ileum now, something is absorbed into this compound ileum. Right? So write this for me. Some digestion, right, is completed in the ileum. And I think I'm going to start using diagrams more, because it helps you to really see what I'm saying. So I'm going to write ileum firstly. Ileum. All right, so we have ileum right here. And we're going to say digestion occurs in the ileum. Here we go. Then we're saying now after that, the function, the most important function, however, is absorption. All right, so I'm going to put now another bracket to say absorption occurs. Absorption. And I'm going to put it between these two. I'm going to put an arrow here, an arrow there. There we go. So let's open these further. All right, so we said digestion occurs. Excellent. So absorption has to happen for digestion to occur in the ileum. Okay? Then now, the reason is that this is the passage for the digested food, salts, vitamins, right? And water. And put that. So what occurs between everything? We're going to say, well, really, it's digested food, salt, vitamins, and water. There we go. Excellent. I'm lagging?
That's what I need you the most.
All right. Thank you. Right. So now the next part of it is that we need to write where exactly is the ileum. Right? The ileum is found in the walls of the gut. So I'm gonna put gut.
Lagging so badly.
I'm lagging?
No, Khalil.
Oh, Khalil. Oh, yeah, he's lagging a bit. There we go. So we're gonna say now ileum is found in the walls of the gut. Here we go. Excellent. All right, so if I move one thing now, just for you to see it, you should be able to. Excellent. There we go. All right, let's continue now. So ileum is found in the walls of the gut, which is then the transport system. Right? Why do we call it the transport system? All right, let's write that. So I wish I had a diagram to show you really, but essentially what happens is that all of this absorption occurs in the stomach, because you said it's a gut, in the stomach, right? And the main reason why is because for certain chemicals, like for example, what if you took some drugs, like for example, if you're having a headache and you take a Panadol, that's technically a chemical that is not to the body, so it's called a drug, right? So in order for that chemical that is not recognized by the body, in order for it to get absorbed into the body now, that's where the ileum comes into play. Understand? So you might be asking, well, sir, what do you mean? George, have you ever had a headache and you took a Panadol pill?
No, sir. I always go to sleep.
Even in that case, when you're sleeping, right, something is absorbed into your body for the pain to stop. Whether it's a chemical in your brain that is absorbed throughout the body or otherwise. So we're saying now, in order for something to stop pain, for example, you take a drug or you take a chemical. That is really an absorption type of behavior, where something such as the drug examples I just gave is now taken into the body. So when you sleep, really, you're releasing serotonin, which is really absorbed into the body. That's why I asked you really if you ever taken a Panadol pill. But let me give you more examples. So it doesn't have to be just Panadol pills. It could be aspirin, right? Certain drugs such as aspirin, which is an American type of deal, is predominantly found overseas. Aspirin, right? And alcohol, that's the biggest one. Alcohol, right? Take effect quickly. Right? Here's the thing that's gonna shock you. Because they are, put it in online, absorbed by the stomach, right? Stomach walls. Okay. So now you see the connection. If I drank some liquor, how does that really go towards my brain and makes me think differently? That's because the chemicals inside of that is absorbed in the ileum or absorbed by the stomach walls. Right? And that chemical is passed on to the rest of your bodily functions. Understand? Everybody? Right. So I was saying, why when you drink do you start to think fuzzy, or you don't you can't walk as normally as you could? The reason why is because when you drink that liquor, the chemical compound in that alcohol is absorbed by the stomach wall now, which transports that to the rest of your bodily functions. So that's really how the absorption in the ileum occurs, where it can pass on healthy substances such as glucose and etc. Let's give them a moment to join back. All right, thank you for joining back. Okay, let's continue. So let's quickly wrap up here.
No, she's not here.
He'll join back quickly. Let's wrap up here.
The police, she's not here.
So now there are some things that I want you to know, write down as your activity or homework. All right? Hashtag activity. First question, suggest a reason why alcohol, use a diagram, right, has such a quick effect to our body, and provide examples of these effects. Question 1. That was 1. Now 2. Right? What are the final products of the digestion of carbohydrates and fats, proteins. So this is really saying C, my bad, C, B, and A. So these are the three different compounds you're going to tell me the products for. Right? Today we talk really about fats and carbohydrates, but you're going to tell me now, based on our previous classes, or you can just research it, what are the final products of the digestion in these compounds. All right, and the last question, right? You're going to now read the paragraph I'll be giving you now and explain what villi, villus, and brush border is there we go, is. So these are your three questions. So now here's the paragraph you're gonna get now. So here's the paragraph. Right. Paragraph says the inner surface of the ileum, which is a specially adapted part of the body to increase surface area for absorption in the stomach, is shaped into many tiny finger-like folds, right? This is called dash, right? It has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 letters. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Still 2. There we go. This is called dash. The other part of it says there are up to 40 of these per square millimeter of the intestines which serves to increase the surface area which is called dash. Right? That's your homework. Understand? So you're just gonna simply look up the definition of villi in the digestion part and tell me if it matches the definition for the first one. So this is the first one, dash, right? And this is the second one. So which one match which? Understand? Right. So this again was just digestion, chemical digestion in the body. And here's a diagram to show you really all that we talked about today. Let me go full screen. So here we go. Talking about digestion, the ileum, the fact that food, salts, vitamins are absorbed through the ileum, which is in the gut, right? It's a process of absorption. Right? So use this diagram to really keep a recollection as to what exactly is happening. Understand? All right, and that would really take us to the end of today's class. Any questions? Any questions? All right.